You say tomato, I say tomato. That's right, it's tomatoes again in the sartorial kitchen. I'm kicking things off with an update on a classic BLT with ciabatta bread and roasted garlic aioli. Then it's linguine with a sun-dried tomato pesto. And last but not least, a tomato soup cake with chocolate ganache. So why don't you pull up a chair and dine with me?
Back, everybody. We are tackling tomatoes once again. Now, I did some tomato-focused episodes in the past, and they were kind of conventional tomato recipes. I wanted to do some unconventional things this time around. So I'm starting off with a tomato soup cake. I know, but stay with me. It's going to be fabulous. So I'm starting out with my wet ingredients. So I've got a cup of sugar, and then I need a couple tablespoons of butter. And we need to cream that together. I know the ratio seems off, but it's the right amount, trust me. And just kind of beat that up. And when you're creaming butter and sugar, you just kind of go, you can use a stand mixer for this too, and you just kind of go until the sugar and the butter comes together. Almost becomes kind of paste-like. And you just want to work through the grains of the sugar and just have it come together as one nice little mixture. Okay, that looks pretty good. Now the last of our wet ingredients, tomato soup. Now I'm not going to dump this right in just yet because we're going to do a little science experiment here. So I've got some baking soda. That's going to be our leavener this time around. Usually I use baking powder, but we're doing something a little different this time around. And I need a whole teaspoon of that. And I'm dumping it right into this tomato soup. Now what's going to happen is the baking soda reacts with the acidity of the tomato. And as you can see, it's foaming up. You see that? And I'm just going to mix that in. And that's going to really help us get a nice, fluffy, airy cake. And then once that kind of comes together, I'm going to dump it out here into the rest of my wet ingredients. And then we will mix that in. Stir that in very well until it all comes together as one little thing here. Alright. And we can move on to the dry ingredients. Alright, I've got my sieve out. I'm going to start with 2 cups of flour. And I usually just kind of do a heaping, and then you can take your finger and level it off. Dump that right in, and I need 1 more cup. Perfect. And to that, some cinnamon, some nutmeg, and some cloves. It's going to be a bit of like a spice cake, but with the tomato, it's going to do something really interesting and give us almost a chocolate kind of note. But I'm going to start with the cinnamon, and we're doing a teaspoon of cinnamon. I want a good amount of cinnamon in here. And then a 1/4 teaspoon each of the nutmeg and the clove. It's a little stronger, so I'm not going to use quite as much. And then with the clove again. And of course some salt. I always put salt in my desserts. About a 1/4 teaspoon of that as well. And you've seen this before. I'll show you again. We just give it a little tappity tap tap. That removes all the lumps from the flour, and it mixes evenly all of the dry ingredients, the seasonings and spices, and it's good to go. And then I switch from my whisk to a wooden spatula, and I just come in here and fold this together. I don't like to overmix the flour because then you end up with a really dense, kind of chewy product. And I want a light, airy cake. And I just come in at the sides and then get underneath the wet mixture and just fold it over until it all comes together. Okay, that looks really good. So, I'm going to take my loaf pan here. I'm using a loaf pan for this. You could use a little kind of square brownie pan too if you want it. But I want it to get kind of nice and high. And then we're just going to carefully dump our batter here. And this batter, I know it's kind of thick, so it's kind of, I call it cake, but it's going to come out almost like a bread. And I just want to make sure I get all of this batter out of here. Okay, and then I'm just going to kind of smooth this out. I want a nice even layer so it bakes evenly. If it's too high on one end, then part of the cake will get done before the other, which is no good. Alright, I think that looks pretty good. And then we're just going to pop this in the oven. I have already preheated it to 350 degrees. And it's going to bake for about 45 to 50 minutes, or until a toothpick comes out clean. And we will check on that then, and we can move on to the rest of our meal. Alright guys, cake is in the oven. Now we're going to move on to a more traditional preparation. I thought I'd throw one in. And that is a BLT. But I'm not just making any plain old BLT. We're going to jazz this up a little bit. So I've got some ciabatta here. I splurged. I thought, let's get some really good bread. Let's kind of fancy this up. Because a BLT, let's face it, bacon, lettuce, tomato on bread or toast. Ho-hum. It's delicious, but it's really nothing to write home about. So I thought, you know, one of the ways we can really jazz this up is some good bread. And then I'm going to take the ciabatta. I'm going to throw this in the toaster oven real quick. About 5 or 6 minutes on a medium heat, just so it gets nice, kind of crisp on top. It'll give us some lovely texture. Just doing that on a medium heat. I don't want it to get too dark. Now, for the BLT, you need some lettuce, you need some tomato. So let's grab our tomato here. And you can use whatever kind of tomatoes you like. I like to make sure that it's nice and firm. I like to squeeze my tomatoes, and if they're like, you know, a little loosey-goosey, they're fine for processing for like tomato sauces and things, but they're not really something I would use as a garnish for like burgers or sandwiches like the one we're making here. Alright, let me set that aside. There's some paper towels here. They are a little wet, and I want to kind of let them dry off some so they don't make our bread soggy. Perfect. And then if you want, you can always take the ends and dice them up for salads or things like that. I never waste my produce. Also need some lettuce. This is just a head of lettuce. I won't use this whole thing, of course, for the sandwiches, but I can also do some salads and things with this. So to get to the leaves, the easiest thing to do is to take care of the core here. And how I do that, just give it a good old smack. And then you'll see that the core comes loose from the rest of the salad, and you can pull it right off. And then you're left with all these lovely little strands of lettuce. Some of the white ends get a little brown, so I cut those off. And you can just pull off the leaves. I only need a few leaves per sandwich. The rest I will save for salads. And then we'll put the rest of this back up for another time. And then of course, you must have bacon for BLT. And I've got my crispy bacon right here. Doesn't that look amazing? Now why don't you see how I made this bacon? It is my foolproof technique to achieving the perfect crispy bacon every time.
First, I cut my strips of bacon in half so they'll fit into the skillet easily. Then I add each strip of bacon carefully to a nice hot skillet. You want to make sure your skillet is good and hot. Then I add a tablespoon of water. That's going to give the fat more time to render down before the meat is fully cooked. Don't flip the bacon too soon. Make sure it's good and crispy on one side before you turn it over. Then, once the fat has finished rendering down and the bacon is good and crispy, I transfer it to a paper towel to drain off all of the grease. And all that's left after that is to enjoy.
Means our bread is ready. Yeah, look at that. Just nice and golden, not too dark. Perfect. Now let's assemble our sandwiches. So I'm going to start here with a little sandwich spread. This is my garlic aioli. I'm just going to do a little squirt on each piece here. So traditionally, we would do mayonnaise with this preparation. But I thought, let's jazz it up some. And I love my garlic. So this is a way for me to get it in. And I'm just going to spread that evenly on both sides. So I want this to have lots of flavor. We're turning up the boring old BLT. Then I think we will start with a bed of lettuce. I'm going to do a few pieces here per sandwich. I want the sandwich to have lots of body since it's only really 3 ingredients. And then we'll do the same here. Then our tomatoes. As you can see, the paper towel has drank up a lot of that liquid for us. And I know I cut some extras. I think we'll do, 2 tomatoes per sandwich is good. And then our bacon. These are nice, big, thick pieces. So good. And we just top it off. And doesn't that look amazing? And then if you want, you can come in here at a diagonal and cut that sandwich in half. Then you have a nice little half sandwich. Alright, let's dig in. Listen to all that crunch. The bacon, the bread. I love the textures. I also love the play in temperatures. So you get the cold tomato, the cold lettuce, and then you get the warm bread, the warm bacon. So it gives you a little contrast. The aioli just adds a nice little bit of moisture, and you get that subtle garlic. I'm going to finish up here, and then we will move on to our entree. So stay tuned. Alright guys, we are back. Our cake is about half done. I've got some water going here for my pasta. We're doing a sun-dried tomato basil. No. Welcome back, guys. Our cake is about half done. The BLTs were delicious. Now we're moving on to pasta. I'm doing a sun-dried tomato pesto. So I've got some water going here. I'm throwing a generous amount of salt. I always salt my water. That's going to help the water boil faster, and it's the best way to flavor our pasta on the inside. And we'll let that go. While that goes, we're going to begin our sun-dried tomato pesto. So you're probably thinking, pesto, isn't that basil and this and that? Yes, but you can also do it, there's lots of different ways to do it. You can do different nuts, you can do different herbs. Really kind of the sky's the limit. And I thought I wanted to do something creative here. What's a different preparation of tomato? I thought sun-dried tomatoes. And I have this jar. I used it in the Mediterranean brunch. So I thought, you know what? Let's repurpose. You know, I love repurpose. I'm going to add some hazelnuts. I know normally you would do pine nuts with this. You can use any kind of nut you want. And I thought the hazelnuts would add something different. So I kind of chopped those up and just toasted them in my toaster oven there for a few minutes. And we're going to dump these right in. This is about a half cup. And then to that, I have some garlic. You know me and my minced garlic. I love it. I'm going to do a whole heaping tablespoon of that. I'm going to have lots of flavor. I'm going to come in here and get some of that garlic oil as well. That's where all the flavor is. Gorgeous. And then some lemon. Let's roll this baby out. We roll our lemon because it releases all those oils and those juices. Just give it a nice little squeeze. And I'm going to do the zest as well as the juice. I love using the zest because it adds a nice fresh kind of floral quality. I think I've zested a lemon almost every episode this season. Maybe that'll be the theme. And about half this lemon. And we want to make sure we're just getting that top layer and not down into the pith because it's very bitter. And it's going to ruin our pesto. I think that's pretty good. Because of course we always have stragglers on the back. And we'll dump those right in. I tell you, this juicer has paid for itself. I've used it so many times. That is the Christmas gift that keeps on giving. And I'm going to juice this whole lemon. So we'll do one half and then the other. This is just going to add a nice brightness, and the acidity is going to play nicely with the cured tomatoes here. Beautiful. And it looks like our water is boiling. That's perfect. I'm going to go ahead and get our pasta cooking now. I'm using linguine for this. You can use spaghetti, you can use angel hair. I would not do a fresh pasta, I would do a dry pasta for this. And I'm going to cook the whole box because I'm going to be making pretty much pesto. And we will have the plenty for leftovers. And do not break our pasta. Ooh, no, no, no. I just put it in like this. As it starts to cook down, it'll go limp and it'll fall into the water the rest of it. You're just fine. Okay, and then the last ingredient here for our pesto is Parmesan. You can use Pecorino or Romano, anything that's kind of like soft and grated. And I'm going to add in about a half cup. I'm going to save some for garnish. Maybe just a little more. I want this to have lots of flavor. And then, of course, some pepper and salt. About a half teaspoon each. You don't need a lot of salt because the Parmesan gives you a good amount of salt. And then we're just going to pop on our lid. I'm going to pulse this slowly, and then while I do, I'm going to drizzle in our olive oil, and it's going to bring the whole sauce together. So I just pulse this until it starts to become a nice little paste. And I just want those tomatoes to kind of break down. And then as this goes, we're going to slowly start drizzling in our olive oil until this becomes more like a sauce and less like a paste. Alright, let's check this baby out. I'm going to give it a little taste here just to make sure I've got all my seasonings where I want it. Ooh, yes. Love that. I am going to, however, come in here because it's kind of sticking to the sides a little bit. Okay, and then we're going to carefully take this off. I've got my front skillet going here. Let's give our pasta a stir. Now that it has broken down some, we can get it all into the water. Plus it's good to make sure all these little strands of pasta are separated. Fettuccine, linguine, things like that loves to stick together, even spaghetti. And then you get like those little clumps of noodles. Throw in just a little more oil here, just so this doesn't immediately hit the skillet and burn while our pasta continues to cook. And then what we'll do is I'm going to par-cook the pasta so it's still a little al dente, and we're going to finish it in this sauce so it all comes together beautifully. And first I'm going to remove our blade here carefully because it is very sharp. That's gorgeous. Now you'll notice there may still be some chunks of tomato in here. That's fine. That's just going to give us some more texture Texture is just as important as flavor sometimes. And then I'm going to just plop all of this sauce in. This smells so good, guys. I wish you could smell this at home. And I've got the skillet on a low heat. I just want to kind of bring this mixture up to temp. I don't want it to get too cooked down. Guys, our cake is finished. I'm going to pull that out. Oh, look at that golden brown and see how it lifted. I'm going to set it on a little cooling rack here. I like to elevate it so air can get underneath. That's going to help it cool faster, and it's also going to help it release from the skillet. Now, if we're not sure, we can come in here with our little knife and just give it a little poke, or you can use a toothpick, and then you want that knife to come out clean. And it has. Now let's give our pasta a little taste. Actually, that's pretty good. Alright, so I'm going to take that off. And then you can see our pesto has reduced. And we're going to finish our pasta in the sauce. I'm going to take this here and just dump it right into the sauce. Now, why am I not using a pasta strainer? Because I want to save our pasta water, because I'm going to use that to kind of thin this out some. And we're going to get a nice, gorgeous, silky kind of texture. And I cooked a whole box here, so I want to make sure that we get all of this out of here. And then we're just going to come in here and just kind of stir this around until it gets, all the pasta gets coated in it. And I just like to come underneath and turn it over and just kind of fold everything up into it. Just until we get everything kind of coated. Okay, I think this has come together rather nicely. Now I just want to grab some of this pasta water. Let's start with a whole ladle full here. And just kind of pour it in. And I think we'll do 2 ladlefuls. This is a lot of pasta, and it's a lot of sauce. Oh yeah, see? And then immediately that pesto breaks down and becomes nice and creamy. So the trick with the pasta water, it has all the starches in it that released as the pasta cooked. So it works like a thickening agent. Oh, that looks so good. Now let's plate up. I'm going to take my tongs here. I'm going to get a little fancy. I'm just going to grab a whole mess of pasta here. And then in the restaurants, they just kind of twirl it like such. And then I'm going to garnish with a little of our fresh cheese here. And a little parsley just for some color, for some freshness. And tell me that does not look amazing. Now let's dig in. Shall we? And I just kind of come in here with my fork and I twirl that up. Yeah, so I love it. It's nice and luscious. Clings to the pasta beautifully. This is the perfect pasta for this treatment. It's nice and toothsome. I hate when pasta is overcooked and it's like nothing but mush. And then of course I taste the tomato, but then we get the brightness of the lemon. Really cuts through some of the fat. And then of course the Parmesan. Perfectly seasoned by the pasta. Now all that's left is to unmold my cake and frost it. Stay tuned. Okay, moment of truth. This has been cooling for about 20-25 minutes now. If I did this right, it should pop right out. Let's see. Did you hear that? Let's have a looky see. And even our 10 came out clean. Beautiful. Look at that, nice and dark. I'm just gonna flip it over. Gorgeous. Now we can... So I thought it would be fun to do a little ganache on this. So I have some dark chocolate fudge. It was about half a container. I just microwaved it for about a minute. I added a half teaspoon of vanilla just to give it a little zhuzh. And I also think I'm going to throw in just a pinch of salt, just to kind of cut through the richness of everything. Salt really enhances the natural sweetness of everything, so you don't need a lot of sugar. And then we're just going to drizzle this on top. And just look how this pours right on, almost like Hershey syrup. And then I just let it drip down the sides. And that's why I have my parchment down, because this likes to make a mess. And then this way, you can kind of contain that. And then you can come in here with your spoon and just scrape out any extra sauce you have. And I just want a nice, even layer on top. So you can just come in here with your spoon, and if it's thicker in any places, you can kind of even that out. You can also come down here where it has spilled over, and you can scoop some of that up and transfer it back to the top, just to make sure everything gets nice and coated. And then I'm also going to let this sit for about 10 to 12 minutes, just till this chocolate kind of hardens back up and we get a nice little shell. Simplest ganache. What I love about ganache, see how it has that sheen? It's just really good presentation. And this is the easiest way to do it. Well, I don't know about you guys, but I'm ready to dig into this cake. I'm just going to slice me a little end piece here. I like the end pieces because they have all the crust, which is the best part, of course. And that chocolate has gotten nice and hard, which is exactly why I let it rest. And there you have it. Okay. Alright, let's just come in here. Okay. Yeah. So, you don't even taste the tomato, honestly. But it takes the place of like your liquids and your oils and eggs. You get a little bit of the warming spices, but it just comes together as a nice little treat. Almost reminds me of like a pumpkin bread or something, but not as zesty. And then that chocolate is perfect because it just marries beautifully with all those spices. It's nice and soft, moist on the inside, and then you get a good amount of texture on the outside from that crust. Oh my god, it's so good. Well, I'm going to finish up here, but I want to thank you guys as always for joining me in the kitchen. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already. Hit me up in the comments. And until next time, bon appetit.